In this video, I want to demonstrate some alternative sketching techniques. And so I'm going to start out by starting a sketch on the front plane, and I'm going to go up vertically to the origin, and I'll come over horizontally, and I'm going to come over at an angle about like that, and then I'm going to move my mouse away and move it back to the end point of this line, and the line sketch command turns into an arc command. And so I'm going to come over here horizontally. Again, I'll move my mouse away, bring it back to the end of the previous line, and it changes into an arc. And I'm going to then come up, and I'm going to come over horizontally. Now I want to track down from the midpoint of that line, so I'll just scrub that point. Don't click on it, just scrub that point, find it, and then I can go up to that midpoint of the line. I'm going to change this to construction, and then I'm going to dimension the diametral dimension from here over to here, and I'm going to do that as 285. I will dimension the vertical height of this geometry as 106, and I will dimension this arc 10. Now I see that I'm missing a tangent from here to here, so we need to remember to go back and put that in. I'm going to dimension this as 8, and I'm going to dimension the distance from here to here, and I'll dimension that as 30. And then I want to dimension the virtual sharp, or the apparent intersection of this line and this line. So I'm going to select this, or not select it, but right click on that line, and I'll do find intersection, and then I'll click on this line. It finds the intersection of those two lines, and then I'll click on this line, and I'm going to do that dimension as 260, and I'll dimension from here over, and that dimension I'll do a 66. Now I would like to dimension the virtual sharp from here over, but every time I do that it crashes, so I'm going to use a different technique on that one. So let's hold down the control key, and I'm going to select those two lines, and I'll make those tangent. And then I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'll select this line and this line, and then I'm going to come up here and I'll select the point command, and so it puts a virtual sharp at the intersection of those two lines. And then we'll try to dimension that again, and hope this time that it doesn't crash. So I'll select the virtual sharp, I'll select over here, and so that time it didn't crash, and I'll put in 90. Alright, then I'm going to put a rectangle over here. Now let's assume that I want that rectangle to always stay in the middle between here and here, no matter what I change these radii to. Any changes that I make, assume that I want that to be to the midpoint of that line. And then I want to put a diametral dimension in here, so I'm going to put a construction line over top of this line. And you might make that a little bit longer so that you know that it's clear that it's there. And then I will dimension the diametral dimension from here to here, and I'll do that as 42. I'll dimension this height from here up to here, and I'll do that as 126. Okay, again, all the dimensions are fully parametric, so we can change anything that we need to. I want to do one additional pro tip here. Notice that this area isn't showing shaded as a closed profile because I have this line extending beyond there. Let's come up here, and I'm going to use the split entities. Now I had to add the split entities to my sketch tools. Let me go ahead and use it, and then I'll show you how to add this to your ribbon. So I'm going to do split entities, and I'm going to select this point, and it's going to tell me that there was a midpoint constraint there, that it split these two lines. That's one line into two lines now, and I'm going to change this one to construction, and then I'll make these two lines equal to each other. That gets back to this being at the midpoint. Everything turns black. It's all fully constrained, and at some point this will shade in once SolidWorks figures out that that is an unambiguous enclosed area. I'm then going to start doing some revolve features. And oh, I forgot, I was going to show you how to do this, put this tool on your sketch tools. If you go to customize and you go to the commands, and go to the sketch commands and find any tools that you might like to use. For example, and this just reminded me, I also like to use this dynamic mirror entities, so I want to go back and do that. Just drag those up, put those on the ribbon, and then you always have them. So I forgot one line, and that step there reminded me of the line that I forgot. I wanted to demonstrate this dynamic mirror entities, and so it asked me for the center line that I want to mirror about, and then I'll draw a line. And so I'm going to click on the midpoint here, and I'll go over horizontally. And when I do that with that dynamic mirror entities, notice that it automatically, anything I do on this side would have been done on that side. I prefer to change this then to construction line. Then I'm going to do a revolve, and I'm going to select contour this area, and then for my center line, select this line, and I want to turn off the thin feature, and I'll say OK to that. Alright, and I need to make that sketch visible again, so I'll show that sketch, and I'm going to select this center line, and I'm going to do revolve again, and this time for my selected contour I'll select inside that area. And so I've revolved that, and then I'm going to select this edge, and I will do a fillet of that edge, and let's say that is 1.5, and now I have that edge filleted. I am then going to do a circular pattern, and I will select the revolve, the second revolve I did, and the fillet, and then for the axis I'm going to select this axis and tell it I want 5 copies equally spaced. And then I'm going to do my shell, and I'll select these faces on the bottom of the cylinders, and I'm going to select this face and this face and this face, and I'll say OK to that. I need to change my radius, so let's well, let me edit that feature. I'll edit that feature, and let's say we're going to make that say 4 millimeters. I want to put a rib in here, and so I'll do the rib command. I'll select this line. I'm going to clear any other selections and select that line a second time, and then I'm going to tell it I want to go parallel to the sketch plane, and I want to make this 3.5, or let's make it 4 millimeters thick, and I want to put a face draft on this time, so I'm going to do draft angle, and I'll put in say a 15-degree draft angle. Alright, so now if I look at this from the top, I see that I have a draft angle on that rib, and I'm going to do a circular pattern then of that rib. So I'll do a circular pattern of this rib, and I'll do that about the axis of the part. 5 copies, I'll say OK to that. I will hide the visibility of sketch number 1. Now, let's say that sorry about this battery indicator coming up on my laptop remote. Let's say that I intended to actually put some draft on these cylinders. So let's I'm going to roll my my roll-up bar up to that feature, and then I'm going to do draft, and I need to tell it a neutral plane. So I have 3 options here. I'm going to select neutral plane, and I'm going to select this is my neutral plane, and then the face that I want to draft is this face right here, and let's say that I want to draft that let's say 7.5 degrees. Now I never worry about whether it's going to, whether it's going the right way or getting bigger or smaller. I just go ahead and say OK, observe what happens, and then if I need to change it, just edit that feature and change it. So it's getting smaller, which is what I intended. But if it was going bigger, I would just edit that feature and change it as needed. Now I will bring back down, so I see that these other 4 don't include the draft. So I need to edit that pattern, and I need to add the draft to the pattern, and now all of those cylinders are now cones, and I'll bring my roll-up bar down to the bottom, and I see that everything now updates. And so whatever dimensions you needed, you could put in there, And if you want to change the color of your part, go to the appearances of that solid body, or you can change by face, you can change by feature. Now I want to go back and do one change on this and see if it crashes on me, because it crashed earlier. So I'm going to edit the sketch, and let's go back to this view, and this dimension 90 right here. I'm going to delete that dimension and try putting it in again. So I'm going to delete that dimension. I want to do the intersection between here and here. I don't know if I can delete that virtual sharp. Let me try deleting it. I don't know if I can or not. I can delete that. Alright, so I'm going to do dimension, and I'm going to right click on this line, and I'm going to do find intersection, and I'll click on this line. And earlier when I did that in a trial, it crashed on me multiple times, and so I will also include the video of the crash at the end of this video. So some alternate techniques, using the split of a sketch, using the line command, going directly into an arc command. There might have been a couple other different tricks that we saw in there. So that geometry turns black. Again, I'm going to right click on this line. I'll tell it to find the intersection with this line. Well, that's just wonderful. Again, I'm going to right click on this line. I'll tell it to find the intersection with this line. Well, that's just wonderful. So that geometry turns black. Again, I'm going to right click on this line. I'll tell it to find the intersection with this line. Well, that's just wonderful.